Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of The Pen is Mightier. Today we are covering Burn Like Cold Iron chapters 20 through 26. And joining me is my fellow co-host, Aaron. Aaron, how are
Hi,
you?
I'm doing great, Brandon. How are you?
I'm doing well. These
And
were a
also,
really
oh, no, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say these were a really interesting bunch of chapters. And it took me a little while to kind of get done with all of it, but I definitely have some thoughts
Yeah.
about, especially towards the end. But yeah, I'm excited to get into it with
It's
you.
not the end though, and that's what I was gonna say. I apologize to our listeners, because this story is my choice. This story is ongoing,
Hmm.
even though it was published 4 years ago. Um, it was originally put onto fanfiction.net in 2016, in November of 2016. So it's actually been 5 years, almost.
Right.
Um, and she's still working on it,
Hmm.
which is absurd. Um, it's only like for 4 years, 120,000 words is not a lot at all. Um, anyway, uh, you guys, I guess you can have first chapter. There was something else I was gonna say, but I kind of forgot. Yeah, I
All
kind of
right.
forgot what I was gonna say. But you can go first.
Okay.
You have chapter
Sure.
20.
Okay. So I don't know if we want to do kind of a explanation of.
Just do like a short, like a very very short plot summary. It's fine.
Okay, so chapter 20 was called But I Have Promises to Keep. Basically from what I can remember now, because of course I always forget to write down what the actual summary of the chapter was. Um I think so a lot of it had to do with kind of the development of let's see here.
They made it
Sorry.
to Lothlorien, everyone. They
Yes.
left Moria and made it
Yes.
to Lothlorien. Um,
Correct. That's basically kind of where we spend a lot of the time is in Lothlorien. We don't really debut any new characters. It's just kind of a lot of, I hate to say it, like kind of like a lot of walking around and a lot of like talking is from what I
yeah.
gathered. Yeah.
Welcome to fanfic.
I don't know if you have anything else to really add. It's really tough coming up with these
No, no, no,
summaries
no.
because I feel like a lot of it is just dialogue and almost not exposition, but just kind of explaining things of kind of what we're about to see. So, yeah, I think a lot of my more commentary comes from the little things that I picked up in terms of plot devices rather than um, the actual summary of the chapter, if that makes sense.
No, I don't have anything to add from the summary. Just
Okay.
your thoughts.
Okay, yeah. So my thoughts. So the continuation of calling Beatrice's knowledge magic is continually funny to me. It does kind of feel like a cheap way to just kind of poke fun at how much she ends up knowing because of meta reasons, but um, it is still rather funny when like you think about it in the context of okay, if this was like real life, them calling it like magic and witchcraft and all of this stuff is just a little ridiculous. But I don't know, I found it funny. I also feel like the author has this really big problem, despite the word limit being kind of small. Um, the author has this problem with descriptions. It's just so much descriptions, and it was even worse, I think, than when we were both kind of reading out the story. But when it's this long, it takes forever to kind of get through. It almost kind of feels like you're watching like a 42-minute episode because it's just like so long and so
Well, she
drawn
does
out,
do a
and there's
good
so
job
many.
of emulating the actual length of how long it took for the Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
To watch the Lord of the Rings. It's like what? It's like 6 hours for three movies.
Mm-hmm.
Really,
Yeah.
really loving that
Long.
length.
Yeah,
She
I was
keeps
gonna
going on
say.
these freaking tangents about how handsome Boromir is. It's so annoying.
It
Stop.
is
We get
annoying.
it.
Yeah, it is
Boromir's good
annoying.
looking. Okay, Sean Bean's good looking. We don't have to freaking have you fawn over him every other. And the funny thing is, reading like her author's notes, it seems everyone loves Boromir. I think we're the only two people reading this story that hate Boromir.
Yeah, and my hate for him grew throughout this story.
Yeah. Anyway, I kind of
But
interrupted you.
no, it's okay. It's okay. So the descriptions galore is just a mess. I found that there was a particular scene in which Bee admitted her guilt over how she had acted towards Gandalf. And I thought that this was a really good example of kind of her own character growth and also the willingness to accept, like, hey, I've made a mistake or I did make a mistake. I want to correct it. I want to put in the work to actually show that I'm sorry rather than just saying, oh, I'm sorry, you know? And I thought that that was a really good character moment. And I feel like I always look for those type of things because I think it helps me at least feel connected to the characters. And I also think it helps me understand the story a little bit more because it feels a little bit more real. Because that's what a human would actually do in
yeah.
this instance. So one thing that I did find annoying was that when B snaps and decides to like run away after arguing at someone, it is very childish for like a 20-something-year-old. And I'll give you
Yeah,
an
it's
example.
almost like she was written by a child. It's crazy.
I'll give you an example. So after she told off Vormir, she
Mhm.
immediately runs to find the courier to for the letters, and
Mhm.
I was just like, Why do you have to be like this? Like, why can't you just like have a conversation instead of like throwing in the towel and just like running off because you're pissed off? Like, I don't know. It's very childish and it's very unbecoming of someone who, as we'll hear later, did go through some serious stuff. It's very like her plot, her character development goes and comes. There's parts where I'm like, okay, actually, she's a really confident,
Yeah,
competent
she's very
main
not
character.
constant. But I mean, I
Right.
guess that's sort of what the author was going for. But also, it's like,
Hmm.
it's to the point that it's not like a growth. It's kind of just
No,
erratic. It's
it
very
is.
like random. And
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know how I feel about that.
And I wonder if we take into consideration how long the story has been going on, if that
Yeah.
has caused the author to kind of miss where B's character was, I guess, originally going to go when they had thought of the plot however many years ago.
Yeah.
So I do think that things like that might also play a role. Because it's a different story of when you're sitting down to write something in one sitting, rather than if you're sitting down working on something over time. Obviously, there's going to be holes and like loose ends that aren't tied up.
Yeah, yeah. Who's that dude who wrote Game of Thrones and he literally does nothing now? Like, what's the dude's name?
The guy that wrote
Game of
Game of
Thrones. We
Thrones,
know who he is, right? You know who he is.
George R.
Yes,
Martin.
yes, R.R. Martin. This is the R.R. Martin case where she has written herself into some sort of weird hole, that like it's not as big as like the hole that George R.R. Martin has probably written himself into. Um,
Yeah.
but it's like kind of, she probably just like, yeah, lost track at some point. Like, she
Mhm.
making it up as she's going along, which is fine, to an extent. I think it's just too erratic. Like, her character, her actions are too erratic to be
Mhm.
indicative of character growth.
Yeah, I can see that, but I still feel like there are moments where I feel like she actually changes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you
There's
can kind
still
of
that
see.
general sense of
Yeah.
development. Yeah,
Hmm.
of course. I guess, should I give my thoughts now, or
Yeah, for sure.
um, so chapter 20, I actually kind of, I disagree with you on the point that where she likes acts childish when she stops the conversation. I would also stop the conversation there. I'm
Mm.
like going like, some dude's yelling at me, and I'm like, say something really stupidly deep, and then all the
Hmm.
conversation just awkwardly grinds to a halt. I would leave. I
Hmm.
think what's more childish about B is literally how many times she cries. This woman has to drink like 30 gallons of water a day because she cries it all out, probably. There isn't enough water in Middle Earth to feed her tears. It's crazy. It's absolutely absurd. Um, and it kind of just ruins all of the character development that the author puts into like making her seem like she's growing. It's all just ruined when there's something minor, like a, I won't say minor, like but like, you know, something happens and she just starts bawling her eyes
Mhm.
out. It doesn't make any sense. Like, she's bawled her eyes out enough. She has to, like, as a human being, I would think after going through this much trauma, you would become numb to it, you know, at a certain
Mhm.
extent, or
Yeah.
you'd kind of be integrated into the world. That's just kind of my big complaint. Of course, she doesn't really cry in this chapter, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
Though I do think she, like, sort of, when she's writing the letters and stuff.
I
Um,
mean, that I
I
can
don't know.
understand because it's an emotional moment.
Yeah, yeah. There's some times where she cries and I kind of get it. Like, I don't want to spoil it, but I also don't care if I spoil it because I'll just upload the reading in a few days. Um, but later on, Gandalf comes back, which is no
Yeah.
surprise to anyone who has read Lord of the Rings. But Gandalf comes back and then she cries, and that makes sense because, you know, she left that relationship on a very, you know, tenuous a strain, and then when she comes back to it, you know, she realizes that yes, I can actually tell him sorry now that he's actually
Mhm.
alive. That's emotional, and I get someone crying at that. But like when someone like leaves your side for like 10 minutes and you just start bawling your eyes out because of it, it doesn't make
Mhm.
any sense, you know.
No.
I also
No, I
hate
agree.
Boromir. I hate him with a
I
passion.
do too. Yeah.
He is too much of a Mary Sue to be believable.
Mhm.
Um,
And I don't really understand why he's even in this. Like,
Yeah, it's kind of, it
I,
feels
I don't know
weird.
why.
It feels weird that
Because
he's in here. It feels like he's just like, oh
he's
yeah,
shoehorned in, right?
everyone likes Boromir because he's hot. So let me just put him in my
Hmm.
story.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll talk about it in chapter 21, but it's definitely one of the biggest problems that I think I have with this entire story and why I feel like at times I was a little bit detracted reading it. But yeah, we'll get
as
into it.
much as I love Amarian and their relationship, I think that I think that if this story was to actually make Boromir's relationship with her meaningful, it has to start out at the start. So I would like it more if she would just have, like, you know, gone to sleep and then woke up in like Gondor, and
Hmm.
then somehow gets invited along to go to the, you know, go to the the fellowship, right? Because then you can
Yeah,
actually have like that connection at the beginning with Boromir, and then the reader can actually associate Boromir with, like, you know, her in a close
right.
bond. That's why I keep making the joke that Amarian should be the love interest, because that like deep connection actually makes sense and you actually
Hmm.
understand why that exists.
Yeah,
Anyway, I guess we should just go on to chapter 21. We've been spending quite a long time on chapter 20.
that's fine. We can go on to 21. You can give the summary for this
Yes,
one.
this one is my chapter. I will give this one. All right. So, chapter 21 is called Nothing Gold Can Stay. It's basically just more Boromir. Um, and then it's more Boromir being perfect, like, you know, pooping out flowers
Hmm.
and his fart smelling like strawberries and stuff like that. Um, and then oh yeah, freaking they leave Lothlorien.
Yeah.
Uh, Beatrice gets a violin, which is pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Very useless plot insert, in my opinion, but she
We'll
gets a
talk about
violin.
it. We'll talk about it.
And then uh, I don't know. The word Amarian appears in this chapter, so that's pretty cool. Um, Boromir, he gets shot. He straight up just freaking gets shot. And
Hmm.
then it's the end of the Fellowship of the Ring. So like everything happens in that forest. Um, you know, just the book things, like what actually happened in Lord of the Rings happened.
Right.
Except she gives Boromir the Kevlar vest, which is an extremely smart idea, actually. Um, it's pretty ingenious. I like that. I think I like the fact that she came up with that idea. With just like, oh, let me give you the Kevlar vest because I know you're gonna get shot. You know, it's the actual first intelligent thing she's done in a few chapters. And then you basically know Boromir lives because the freaking description of the story is a Boromir love
Hmm.
like thing. Um, So you know he lives. There's no tension here. Um, I kind of like the action. I do like the fact that she shoots at an orc like 5 times and misses all of them except
Yeah.
for no. She straight up. Oh no. She what? No. She straight up
She
doesn't hit
does
anyone.
shoot. Yeah, she doesn't. She
She
does
shoots
shoot, but
someone.
she
Oh,
doesn't
the
hit.
only shot that she hits is like 1 foot, and like she's being
Mhm.
carried by the person that she shoots, which
Um,
I think is hilarious. I think it's so
she
funny.
she did get hit, right? Like she got injured,
Yeah. She
right?
got hit like not with a bullet. She got hit by like a physical object, like a melee object, like a
Okay,
fist.
but there was no bruising, right?
No, she
Because
does.
that was
It was
weird.
assumed, I guess. Everything that touches this
Okay,
girl bruises her for some reason.
okay,
I
because
understand. No, you
this is
go.
definitely one of the complaints that I have is that in the next chapter, I believe, well, I don't want to spoil it, but someone else gets
No,
injured,
spoil it straight
and
up. We straight up.
okay,
We don't have to worry
so
about
if
spoilers.
I
'Cause
remember correctly, Alfric gets injured in chapter
yeah,
23.
okay.
Um, and for whatever reason, people love to, talk about his injuries, but no one mentions the fact that she gets hit and that she literally passes out. So it's such a plot inconsistency because she just passes out,
Well,
and
it's
everyone's like,
just
okay.
everyone gets knocked out. Like that's like a coming of age kind of thing in Middle Earth. You just get knocked out and you
Okay,
wake back up in like 30 seconds. Of
fair.
course. Yeah, I don't
Well,
know why
yeah.
she focused so much on Alfred's injuries. Like that,
Hmm.
that was just like it seemed like it was a dressed injury, you know.
Right. But
Um,
okay, so some of my takeaways. Boromir roasting beyond her fighting skills was such a mood because if I remember this conversation correctly, it was that he was basically alluding to the fact that she was weak in battle, but he didn't really want to say it. So I think she called him out on it, but then he was like, "Oh no, I didn't mean it like that," and I was just I laughed when I read that because I was like, yeah, she is pretty weak. And again, I think it's like this weird syndrome that I think the main character has, in which like
she's
she
overly
falls
weak.
under this kind of like she's in the plot because she's the main character, but there's no real reason why she needs to be protected. There's no real reason why they need her outside of I guess her foresight, but we'll get into that. And so I just feel like again, it just like, why is she there? Like, she's just so useless.
Yeah, she really hasn't done anything for the Fellowship up to now, has
No,
she? I mean, she
no.
does. She did do that thing with the orc, which was pretty cool. But I mean, it's just like, or not the orc, the cave troll. Um,
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. But I don't know, man. If I was Legolas or Gimli or Strider, I would straight up just kick her out. Like,
Yeah,
there's no.
same.
I would have been like, no, I wouldn't kick her out. I'd be like, it'd be great if you could stay in Lothlorien forever. Just so that we don't
And just
have to,
leave her
yeah,
behind.
deal with you. But then
Yeah,
I guess if they left her in Lothlorien, then Boromir would have died.
that's true. Yeah.
Who knows, man? I think maybe again, I think there's only two things she's done for the Fellowship that's changed its
Hmm.
course so far, which is give Boromir a Kevlar jacket and shoot the cave troll
Okay.
miraculously, mind you, because freaking she couldn't even hit this massive orc, literally the size of a barn door. She couldn't hit it. Um, I honestly, I mean, everyone in Texas grows up knowing how to shoot a pistol. So like, the fact that she had
And
six
doesn't she
shots
also
and then missed
lampshade
five,
that as well? She
huh?
also lampshades that. She also lampshades that by saying that, like, her Texas background gives her a lot of, like, knowledge about guns or whatever, but then she mentioned that she was, like, scared of them, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly. So
it's
it's just,
kind of
like,
weird. It's kind of
it's
weird.
very weird.
I feel like most people that are scared of guns don't go into like learning how to use guns.
No, they
Yeah,
don't. So, yeah, but back to the relationship between Boromir and B.
it's
It just
so
feels so
creepy, bro.
incredibly.
I hate the
It's
relationship.
it
It's
is
so
it
gross.
is because you also
Ugh,
told me that Boromir is supposed to be older, so the
yeah,
age gap
much
thing is
older, much
also.
older. Yeah,
And
he's
then
supposed to
on
be
top of
50,
which,
something like that.
I feel like it feels incredibly forced and like shoehorned in, excuse me, just because they needed a
Oh,
romance.
it gets really weird, bro. It
It
gets
does
really
get weird.
weird. God,
It gets
because you
really
can no,
weird.
because it's only weird because the main character is portrayed as a little girl. she feels
Well,
like a
she's
little.
supposed to
She's yeah.
be
That's the
20
thing. She's not
something.
supposed. It's not supposed to feel weird like in your
Hmm.
mind. Like a 50-year-old good-looking man and a 20-year-old. I mean, sure, okay, I can
That
kind of see that.
happens,
Yes,
but
but the fact is that B is written to seem like some high school age, like
yeah.
really like it feels like almost that sometimes that she's like a early high school age, like a freshman in high school,
Hmm.
even though she's 20. Like she's supposed
Yeah.
to act like she's 20 in so when they have this weird like romantic moment later on, it's so gross to read, like to
Yeah.
read. It's like ugh, like
I
she's
agree.
such a predator. Um Chris Hansen would be proud. But yeah, it's like it's terrible.
Hmm.
It's really gross. I really don't like the relationship. Again, I love her and Marion's relationship. I want more Marion. Where is she?
Hmm.
Give me a Marion.
No, we're literally, where is she?
She's still in Rivendell, just living life.
Mm.
Really should
They
have
should go
just
back there.
really just should have just stayed with Marion because that just sounds like good times.
Exactly. I did like the gift, and I know that you said that it wasn't really that important, which overall I was trying to find the relevance in the plot, but I couldn't find it. But I did
Story of
think,
my life. Just reading this story, trying to find random things that mean something. They don't.
but what I did like was that it was a very touching gesture, and I think again it goes back to is it Galadriel?
Galadriel,
Galadriel? I'm
yeah,
not sure how to say it.
Galadriel.
But I think it goes back to her character and kind of showing a little bit of her growth because she kind of starts off a little bit hard or hardened towards a lot of different people, and then to see her give a gift like that to be, I did think was somewhat meaningful, even if the violin itself wasn't that impactful for the rest of the
It
story.
definitely was the cheapest violin. It probably had a defect. The dude Nellian was like, you know what? I can't use this, so how about we just give it to that idiot girl that came by and really likes the violin. It
Oh
was
man.
definitely the worst one there.
Hmm.
Galadriel seems to be a very shrewd person, and that's exactly
Yeah.
what I think Galadriel would do.
Hmm.
But she did
Yeah.
give Frodo that weird. See, but the thing is, that's why I'm saying that the violin is useless because, uh, because Frodo's gift actually saves, or Sam uses Frodo's gift to no, yes, Sam uses Frodo's gift to save Frodo, which is meaningful because it's like kind of a transfer of person. Where it's like Frodo used to be the good guy and he's slowly being corrupted, and then now Sam is shown to be the you know it's meaningful, it's deep. But the violin is just here's a violin. I know you like violins, so have this violin. And she never
Hmm.
uses it again, or she uses it once, and it doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't do anything.
Yeah. But I was gonna say that the when Boromir and B got hurt, I don't really understand why the author felt like that we would care. Because I sure didn't. I just,
Facts.
I was like, oh, they got injured. Oh, well, okay. Well, I really didn't pay much attention.
Yeah, no.
Um,
I understand. It's terrible. I
yeah,
straight up Boromir getting hurt is kind of like I was like yes, like
yeah, I was
finally,
too.
goodness gracious, someone hurt that guy.
I know.
I would have
Because he was
shot
also
him if
really
the orc
starting
didn't
to
shoot him.
get on my nerves too, so
I don't know,
it worked
man.
out.
It's really funny when she keeps writing at the author at the end of she writes her author's notes. She's like, "I promise you
Hmm.
guys will see Boromir since you guys love him so much." And I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh God,
yeah, I
like
really don't want to
please
see him.
no, no more
Yeah,
Boromir." Ah
but
man.
that's it. That's about it. What I have to say about chapter 21, though.
All right, well then you can do chapter 22.
Okay. So I literally abridged it to one sentence.
Yeah,
I said fight with the Urukai. I'm not really sure
yeah,
again how to say
Urukai. Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
Urukai. And then meet Alfric. That's it.
yeah.
That's pretty much what happened.
That is pretty much what happens.
Yeah.
There's really nothing meaningful that happens in this chapter.
So to me, I'm not a Lord of the Ring fan. I've really never seen any of the books. I know some of the terminology, but that's more so through mainstream media than anything else. I don't know who these people are, and I felt like the author personally, for me, again, I'm reiterating, for
Oh no, she doesn't
myself,
explain. You're just
yes,
supposed to know what they are. I'll tell you
exactly.
what
And
they
I
are
think
if
that
you
this
want.
is, well, I managed to look that up
Oh, okay.
beforehand,
Okay.
but um, I think one of my biggest problems that I have with this story as well, and I have a lot of problems. I'm realizing
Yeah,
now.
yeah, we both
Um,
have a lot of them.
I think it's the assumption of things that don't aren't that apparent to the naked eye, if that makes sense. In the sense that, you know, things will be just said to us instead of being
Yeah,
showed.
explained. Some things are
You're right.
explained, and then some things that need to be explained are not explained.
Exactly.
It's a
You
pretty
summed it
big
up better
problem
than I could. Yes, and I think that
with every writer, I
it's
think.
very jarring. And I also think that the knowledge that Nathan knows, and by extension B knows,
Nathan
it
should have
goes
been the
and
main character.
no, literally, because B will sometimes know everything about the books and everything about what's supposed to
Yeah,
happen,
yeah,
and then
she
her
does
all
do
of a
that
sudden
sometimes.
her hindsight, or excuse me, her foresight comes into play as a plot device because it's used to progress the plot in whatever direction it's going or decides to go in a certain day.
I
But
think,
then, on top of which, it creates a plot hole because sometimes she doesn't know everything. Which I guess realistically, we're thinking like if someone who didn't really know the franchise or whatever, and only knew bits and pieces of it, and would know more, some things more than others. Okay, I understand all of that. But when you're telling a story and the main character is supposed to be from the outside world, being placed into that world, it creates a bit of a jarring effect because you can't really like pick and choose how much they know, if that makes sense.
well, apparently this author can. I freaking Beatrice gets like narcolepsy every time she's watching a movie with Nathan. She just like
Yeah,
falls asleep and wakes back up and falls asleep at the right time, and to know like just enough.
yeah.
And yeah, she sometimes knows a lot about things that I don't really think she should know about.
Hmm.
I can't really the freaking story's so long. I can't point out any examples. I feel like to
I
support this
know what
claim,
you're
I should
talking about.
point out
I
some
know what you're talking
examples. But
about because I reread this chapter today, and I was like, okay, like I don't know if I would know this, if I was in this
yeah, the Urukai
situation.
definitely is a big example. You're supposed to know
Hmm.
about like she. I don't know like where she learned about the Urukai, but earlier she said
Hmm.
something about waking or going to sleep and then waking back up at the end of the movie.
Hmm.
Um, she wouldn't know what those. She would know that what the Urukai look like, but she wouldn't know that they were called the Urukai because
Hmm.
their creation is in the middle of you know the
The
story.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So.
again, I don't really know how she knows that they're Urukai, but
Hmm. Yeah, and I definitely think that's one of the more frustrating parts. I think for me reading.
I mean that's kind
I
of
do
small.
like.
It's really not
Yeah.
too.
Um, I do like B reaffirming to herself though how bold she is. It's another thing that I noticed and the little thing that I kind of picked up. It was mentioned I think earlier, I think maybe in chapter 21 when they were talking about like the fighting style, and I think Boromir was the one that called her bold. Don't quote me
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like how she took
Ah, I
that
hate that
and
guy.
then started to kind of, say that to herself, like, yeah, I am supposed to be bold and all this and that.
Yeah,
I
freaking
think it
Boromir
was,
feels like a
mhm.
dad. Boromir is such
Yeah,
dad energy, which is
well,
why it makes it so creepy. Gosh darn it.
yeah, and I think that's one of my bigger problems with the relationship is that it shouldn't be a romantic relationship because there is such a weird
It
mix of
it's a
energies.
good relationship if it's not if I
Hmm.
didn't know it was gonna be romantic in the future. Like if it was
Right.
just them talking, like, yeah, this is cool. They're friends. It's
Hmm.
pretty cool that they're friends. You know, he makes
Or
a
even
great
if
mentor.
Boromir was like a mentor, yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Like if he was a mentor figure, right, and was kept as that, that would be much better. But the fact
be
that
less
he
creepy.
is,
That's for sure.
well, yeah, but the fact that he is supposed to be this person that B is also crushing on is like I don't know how I feel.
B better be crushing on to Marion by the end of this, dog. I love her so much, man. I feel like I would do like, you know how some people do like fan art of stuff.
Yeah.
I think the
Do
only
fan
fan art
art
I would
of
ever produce
Amarian.
or ever want to look at from this story is Amarian,
Mm.
because she's
Fair
just
enough.
so freaking precious. She's great,
Yeah.
man. Anyway,
So, so
I
what are your
always have to
thoughts
talk
on
about Amarian. Huh?
so what are your thoughts on chapter 22?
I Alfric is cool. Again,
Do you
way too
really like
much.
him?
Yeah. I mean, he's talkative. He talks too much, like
Hmm.
me. So I kind of relate to him.
Mm.
I I think that he is a little bit misogynistic, but I think everyone in this world is misogynistic, so it's fine. Um,
Like that makes so you're basically saying two wrongs make a right.
it's no. It's fine because it's kind of like the whole judge people based on their own like time period and their own. This is
Yeah.
like medieval. Everyone was sexist in the medieval times. It's
Yeah.
fine. Alfric,
That's true.
well, yeah, Alfric is kind of bland. He is
Yeah.
kind of an NPC.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. He's like one of the NPCs I'd kind of like. Like,
Okay.
if you're playing GTA 5 and you have an
Hmm.
NPC that you really like, you
Yeah.
just kind of like
And you
protect the
run over them
NPC.
with the car?
No, I don't see. That's the thing. I like if I like an NPC, like if I like there's really no one in GTA 5 actually. I like Skyrim. If you kind of like a NPC and you kind of want to keep him around, it's kind of fun, to
Yeah.
talk to an AI, and have him like walk into walls and stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
that's kind of what Alfric is like. He's kind of super bland, NPC energy, like epitome of a side character. Um, I will say I like his character,
Hmm.
uh, but then again, he straight up just heckin' dies. Like,
Hmm.
so it's really not like. I'm sorry if I spoiled it. By the way, I really shouldn't be saying sorry because I've already did a read through. But it's not long enough for me to care about him.
I
20.
agree.
What else happened in 22? Oh, the orcs.
Hmm.
Ugluk is pretty cool. He's pretty dumb, and I also like his little thing where he like tricks B and is like, so if I pull the trigger, nothing's gonna happen, right? And puts
Hmm.
it at her head, and I think that's
Yeah.
pretty metal. I think that's pretty cool.
Was he also the one that was asking her about the bullets? Like how does
Yeah,
he
yeah.
load the
How do I
bullets into
load
the
these?
gun?
How do I load this gun? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's him. I kind of like that scene. I think I
Funny
was
scene
also gonna say
actually.
I was also gonna
Yeah.
say the whole thing that you thought it was funny that they were talking about like it always being magic. Like in their situation, I don't think I would do anything different. I think I would think it was magic too if I didn't know what guns were and I just saw people like shooting AKs. I thought
Yeah, that's
I would
true.
think it's magic.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay. I don't think it. I think it works. I don't think it's like funny in like a. I think it's hilarious, but I don't think it's funny in like a bad way.
Mm.
Anyway, that's just a tangent. There's really not that much that happened in 22. It's just they get
No.
captured. You get to see the actual character of the orcs, and
Hmm.
I actually kind of like them more than Boromir, which is not surprising. Uh, I like Ugluk better than Boromir. He seems
Yeah,
to have more of a humanness about him.
I agree.
Like it's very obvious that these orcs and these Urukai don't get along, and that they also don't quite understand or like their leader,
Hmm.
which gives them a bit more depth than Boromir, who is about as deep as the
A shallow pool.
yeah, like the beach pool, where the babies crawl around in.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's about how deep that character is. Uh, so yeah, that's kind of what I thought. I was,
Yeah, a lot of those thoughts I share. I'll get into a point about not Boromir, excuse me, Alfred that I wanted to make with chapter 23. So if you're done with that, I'm
I
fine with
guess
moving
one
on.
last thing I want to say is how the
Oh, sure.
prologue finally comes back, uh, with "And the Earthborn Old as Mountains,"
Oh,
where she
okay.
sees Fangorn's forest.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, and then that's
Okay.
literally it. Doesn't mean anything, of course, because it don't know why. But it's just, hey, it's the prologue again. Now, next scene, it's kind of
Uh-huh.
Yeah, she doesn't really do anything with Fangord, which is kind of sad.
No. It
Anyway,
just kind of left there, but yeah.
yeah. Anyway, you can go on. Is it chapter 23? Is my chapter or your
Yeah.
chapter?
It is yours.
Okay. So chapter 23, Cowboy Take Me Away is what is it about? I read this one today. Yeah, she gets to the Rittermark, Rohan. And then Aomer straight up like does not believe her, which I think is really funny considering how like he saw the flare. Oh, actually no, this is before the flare, right?
This is before the flare, yeah.
Yeah, so he like sees Beatrice, right? He I don't really know. I feel like he should know better than to question this person that came out of the orcs. Like the orcs captured. First off, the orcs captured her, which is like,
Yeah.
hey, she's important because orcs normally just kill everyone, right?
Right. So there's a reason why
So
she's
there's a
abducted.
reason why. So whatever she says is probably important. She's probably some sort of
Hmm.
messenger of some sort. But he ignores that, and he's like, "Ha ha, you're an idiot. Halflings are not existent." Um, and then Alfric straight up freaking, does he die in this one?
No,
No, he
next
does. He
one.
dies in the next chapter.
Yeah.
Alfric is like in the sidelines again, um,
We talk
doing
about his
his
injuries.
doing his NPC thing. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
injured. Um, kind of deal. What else happens? Nothing. uh, yeah, she gets taken to Rittermark, and then she basically converses with those people. There's really no new meaningful characters that are
Mhm.
introduced. Um,
Well, here's the problem that I wanted to get into. This is my main point that I had for chapter 23 because again, there's really not much going on.
yeah.
Anyways, so I think one of the bigger problems that I have, God, use the same line every time. But what I mean by this is that there's three big things that I have a problem with this story. The inconsistencies when it comes to the lack of and then over excess of knowledge that B seems to possess at any given moment. The character development being kind of wishy-washy again, probably because of its length over time of how long the story has been written. And number three being there's so many characters. There are so many characters. And look, I know that there's probably a lot of characters in the Lord of the Rings franchise,
Oh no, this is
but
very Lord of the Rings, very fantasy. Just so many things to keep
yeah.
track of. Um,
But I think that for me, it's very tough when not every character is given the same amount of screen time. And I recognize that not every person can, but it does kind of create this almost air of why should we care about these people? Like why should we care about what is her name? Eomer, right? Like why should we care
oh,
about
Aomer is pretty important.
yeah.
I would say something like
Well, I
sorry,
was
I'm
just saying
interrupting
that
you,
just
but like
in no no, it's fine. I was just saying that in general, like why what is the reason for
no,
me
the
caring
problem is
about
she
this
gives them all
character?
names. That's the
Hmm.
problem. The it's not the fact that she brings in too many characters. I think actually she brings in a pretty good at like a pretty perfect amount of characters. It's not too much, it's not too little. The fact is I think you're getting caught up on the fact that they all have names and therefore you feel
Hmm.
like you have to keep track of them when really
Right.
you don't. You could just go like there's a quote here where it's like Alfric and Leofric and Eomer and Grima and all
Yeah.
that stuff's
Just
going
so
on.
much name.
You really don't have to name Leofric.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess they do all address each other by name, um, but you don't have to be like, did you not write out what the Lord Eomer's men Leofric went on? Just be like, the man went on, or like his companion went on.
Hmm.
Therefore, we know to focus on Alfric and Grima and Eomer and Beatrice instead of having to deal with Leofric and whatever Metasild is, Rohis. They literally named the freaking horses, so that's cool. I guess now you have to think whether it's a horse or a
A
person,
person.
um, which is great. It
Hmm.
works in a movie. I think she doesn't understand this, but the author doesn't understand this. But the horse, you can tell in a movie when there's a lot of characters because they all have faces and physical
Right.
like appearances, and you can tell
Hmm.
if it's a horse. In writing, you can't tell if it's a horse or a pet rock or a character or B's alternate personality. You don't know. You have to be able to tell. You have to be able to
Yeah.
read the context. But in the movie, it's all just visual. I think that's why she's kind of getting mixed up
Hmm.
here.
And I feel like going back to the descriptions, which is another complaint I have, I think that there are times where the descriptions are given where I'm like, you didn't really need to describe this. And then there's also times where I'm like, this needed way more description than you originally thought, you know? So I don't know. I feel like it would have been nicer, as you said, if there was a way that she could have they could have characterized these characters and actually kind of define them instead of just throwing out random names and being like, okay, like care about these people, if that makes sense. But
Yeah, no, I
yeah,
get that.
that's
I get
that's
that.
that's the main gripe that I have with this chapter and the story as a whole. But aside from that, yeah, there really wasn't a whole lot kind of developing. Not really much developing next chapter anyway. But I
Her
will. Yeah,
freaking
you can.
titles are hilarious.
They are.
Hilariously bad
They
sometimes.
are. Hmm.
Cowboy Take Me Away. I love that.
But
Repeat Offender
also,
is the next chapter.
yeah,
And
chapter like.
it
Can
really
I
does
just read
not
some of
fit
these?
with the actual tone of the story.
No. Can I
It's
read
really
some of these?
funny.
I don't think Advil would have helped. I can't see Texas from here. There's also
Yeah, yeah, it's very
I'm new
like
in
not.
town and it gets worse. I'm stealing that one. um, but yeah, these chapter titles are a problem.
Yeah, they're an issue. I agree.
Yeah. But do you have anything else to say about chapter
No, nothing
23?
happens in chapter 23. We just get a
Okay.
lot of names of horses.
Hmm.
So, I mean, do with that
Yes.
what you will. All right, 24
Okay.
is yours. Wow,
So,
this episode's gonna be real short. We're only at 40 minutes. It's maybe
yeah.
because this all these chapters mean nothing, and
Yeah.
there's really nothing to talk about. Um,
But it's called Repeat Offender. Quite aptly named, in my opinion, because again, it is repeating the offense of nothing really happening.
Brandon, I'm gonna I'm just gonna let you know. I'm not cutting you off. I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna turn off
Uh-huh.
my microphone for a bit because I have to prepare some stuff for dinner.
Sure, that's
So
fine.
just keep going. Just talk about your stuff. I'll
Okay,
be back soon.
sure. So, chapter 24 was called Repeat Offender. So mainly the biggest plot point that kind of happens here is that Alfred ends up dying. And it was kind of an interesting almost plot because I think that for me, I just really got taken by surprise. I feel like a lot of the times I read stories and I do feel like whenever a character is introduced, especially as a writer myself, I know that most characters typically have some sort of significance. And as Aaron said, Alfric is the definition of side character energy. There's really nothing that, in my opinion, is really tying us as readers to this character. And I think, furthermore, there is no reason for us to really care about this death. While I would have liked to see more of him and kind of see more of his story and where it could have gone, um, it just kind of feels very blank. And it really just doesn't evolve from there. Another thing that I had written about this chapter in particular was B standing up for herself against Eowyn. I think that this was a really great moment, and again, I think it was one of those things where it kind of shows us B's growth. We come from this scared, timid woman, or shall I say girl? I will say girl because I do feel like at the beginning of the chapter, she was definitely a lot more scared, a lot more reserved, a lot more whatever. But now I feel like she has grown into that kind of stronger woman um, aspect. Not saying that women cannot be emotional or they cannot have feelings or anything like that. But I do feel like she has matured a lot, in the span of 20 something chapters. I also think it's important to note that you can be in your 20s and still somewhat act like children. Even though you shouldn't, there are definitely people that do act like that. And I think that B acting like that was a choice, probably a creative choice on the author's part that I think was actually quite strategic and actually really smart because it does kind of show the evolution of her character ultimately, to getting to where she is at this place where it's just so much easier to almost kind of relate to her now. While obviously no one has ever been in these scenarios or these situations where people, you're thrown into this weird, fantastical world and you have to figure out a way to survive. But not just that, you have to figure out a way back home. And no one really understands your customs. You don't really understand what other people's customs are. So it's a big blur. I think that with all of that said, it does still make me, I think, feel a lot better about her character moving forward because I can kind of understand where she's coming from because of where she has been. So I think that that is definitely one of the stronger aspects of this chapter, and I don't know. I think that that was definitely one of the main takeaways that I had in regards to chapter 24. Aaron, are
Yeah,
you back?
cool. Yeah, I'm back. Did you hear that? Did you
Okay.
hear the little click of the microphone? I'm so
I
sorry.
did. I
If
did.
you could hear
It was
that.
like very minor. Very
Okay,
minor.
good. Because this microphone, like, I looked on the reviews online before I bought it. It's super like not. It's super receptive to like random touching.
Mm,
So like if you turn it
got it.
on, there's a little click, and it's really annoying.
Gotcha.
Sorry. What? So like, what were you talking about? I heard the last part of it. Where you like how the characters like how it develops the character. I think 20
I mean, I was talking about, yes, I like how this chapter developed the character, but I was also referring to B. I really like how there was a moment in which she stood up against I think it's Eowyn. I'm not really sure
yes, yes,
how to
Aowen.
pronounce it,
Yes.
but
I like that scene as
I
well.
really liked
Hmm.
that scene because I think it shows how much of a stronger woman she has become throughout this entire story, which I think is
Yeah.
a really good example for female readers. But I also think it's a good example of just like how much a situation can really grow and change you. Even if this is totally make believe and whatever,
No,
it
I
is
like.
still kind of a good reminder. Mhm.
Yeah, I was gonna say I actually also liked how she stood up to Wormtongue, in this
Yes,
chapter.
yes,
Yeah.
that too. Hmm.
She like it kind of does show again. This is the same point as her talking to Aowen. Um, it does show that she's grown more confident in herself.
Hmm.
And she actually will say like, "No, I'm not a witch. Like, stop saying this." You know.
Hmm.
And she'll talk back to these people like they're just people, like that she knows, and like this is how you she would talk to someone if someone in Texas would be like, "You're a witch." Um, you know,
Right.
I think it's pretty cool that that's happening. I also Wormtongue does not get enough like emphasis as because he's really like emphasized in the movie. He's like really a thing. Um, and I guess we just don't see enough of him. I can kind of understand because it's not like really her plot line, but
Hmm.
it kind of makes me sad
Yeah.
that we don't get to see Wormwood for or Wormtongue for how gross he really is. Uh, so we don't really get an understanding of how Theoden's been.
Hmm.
But again, it's not her plot line, so I'm fine with it.
Right.
I really like how she like kind of thinks that when they say the White Wizard, she immediately thinks of Saruman and she tenses up and she's getting ready to fight. Again, shows how she's confident in herself now. She's bold, right?
Right.
Um, Eomer's change of heart is also welcome. It makes sense again. This episode is pretty good. Or episode this well this episode is gonna be pretty good. But this chapter I think did a lot for B, kind of showing people that B is tough now.
Hmm.
She's capable of handling herself. Um,
I do
and
want to
that's
ask
oh yeah
you.
no keep
Mhm.
yeah. What is it? What is it?
No, I did want to ask you. What are your thoughts on Alfred dying? Like I was talking
Oh,
before you had
I
come
saw it
back.
happening. The moment I saw Alfric with a hole in his leg. I was like, "Yep, he's dead." There's no way
I
he's gonna get real close to being alive and he's gonna be dead.
mhm, yeah.
I do like how she
So
used his death though. It does.
talk about
She it
it.
was a good. It was a good attempt. So basically, she used it to try and show Wormtongue's character, right? Where Wormtongue kills Alfric and
Hmm.
uh, blames it on freaking B, uh,
B
right? And it's good, and it's only bad because it's not enough. I
as in.
personally would have had her shrink some of the other chapters where they don't do anything and just like have them arrive at Rohan because like this is a high octane setting, right? Some settings like
Mhm.
Lothlorien were a lot of just like
Sitting
relaxing
around.
and nothing
Yeah.
happening, right? And I
Yeah.
would have rather her just shorten that to like maybe half a chapter and have them arrive here earlier so we can kind of see more of how Sauron's reach has reached like this place, and how
I agree
different
with
it
that
is than
actually.
like kind of compare it to Rivendell because this is kind of a Rivendell, right? A lot happens here
Hmm.
and yet nothing really moves. Um, so like I kind of would like her to focus more on these action oriented scenes or these like these settings that things actually happen and there's like characters and influence and stuff and like plot moving because Lothlorien was just like a pit stop and she spent an entire like chapter and a half on a pit stop,
Yeah.
um, which doesn't seem right to me. But I guess everyone loves elves, so that's probably why she did it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was also something. And you know what I don't really like? And I think that this is a problem that a lot of fan fiction writers have now that I think about it. I think that they write to their audience. And I want you to disagree with me if you do, but I
Yeah,
feel
no,
like
I feel
something that
that
I've noticed in these two chapters, or not chapters, these two
pandering.
stories that we've read, pandering. Yes, they
Yes.
pander to their audience a lot, and it's a lot of like, oh well, let me go. No, you guys want this to happen. Like
Hey, it's
for
better than
me
My Immortal.
personally, yeah, well, yeah, but I think that one of my biggest problems is you shouldn't necessarily write your story for anybody else but you. And I feel like a lot of her maybe jarringness of the story feeling a little bit mishmashed is because of them trying to fit what the audience wants into their story as well. And I think that that
Yeah,
creates
yeah.
a
I will
difficulty.
say this. I have to go again soon. So you might have to take the next chapter as well. I'll do the
Okay,
last two, but
sure.
uh, I think that what was it? Oh yeah. So this story does a pretty good job, compared to most like fan fiction I've been exposed to
Mm,
with the not pandering. Like it's very clear that she's giving it an effort, to try and keep the characters original, and not keep them from the audience,
hmm.
in the sense that she will write the story as the characters acted out, not as the audience demands certain plot points to happen. I
Okay.
think this story still is a little bit a victim to that because Boromir is still in it for some reason. Um, but you can't really help it when when your description of the story is Boromir Love OC.
Hmm.
So I think maybe that was just her first mistake. Uh, but I think she does a good job. I will
Yeah.
disagree with you on the point. I mean, maybe you think it's heavier than I think it is, but I think she does a pretty good job of keeping it authentic.
Okay. That's fair
Anyway,
enough.
yeah, you get the next chapter, 25, and I will do 26. Sorry, I
All
know
right.
that we were supposed to split this evenly. I guess it
No
still is
problem.
evenly, but I have to
Yeah,
take care of stuff. So I'm
that's
gonna turn
fine.
my microphone off again. It's gonna be a loud noise, and then you'll know when I'm back by the loud
Okay.
returning noise. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
All right. So, chapter 25. I wrote a line down as we were recording, when Aaron kind of spoiled this chapter a little bit, but I had said Gandalf reappears and B cries again, yet again. um, so for me, there was a moment in this chapter. So, kind of getting into the summary, a big part of this chapter was Gandalf reappearing, figuring out that he's not dead, and B kind of having to come to grips with that and what does that mean. And I'll kind of talk about that and my thoughts on that a little bit later as well. but there are some developments in the plot in terms of questions of whether or not Wormtongue is dead. There's also a bit of an appearance by Saruman and kind of the discussions about that. I feel like we had kind of drifted away from like him even being mentioned in the plot, and I guess now in these last two chapters, he's kind of making a resurgence, which I thought was important. Um, there was a little bit of discussion in terms of mortal life in Middle Earth, such as discussion of Rohan, and so that was interesting, I think, at least to me. I'm just trying to find out what else is really important to kind of talk about here. Um, I think that overall, the biggest takeaway I think for me is really going to be that Gandalf Beatrice interaction. Now, I think that this is probably one of the most important things that this story has really done, and I think it has even shown me and given me the space to kind of reevaluate how I deal with guilt and stuff like that. There was another human moment earlier, and I believe we touched on it in the last episode, whereas B had to really kind of make this choice of whether or not to stay in Middle Earth or to escape using some type of MacGuffin. And ultimately, she chose not to do that. And I felt like that was a very big human moment because obviously it showed the morality of the situation. If I leave, like none of these people are really going to matter, but at the same token, I've grown to like these people. I've grown relationships with these people, and I think that those relationships and the intricacies of that, I think, does play a role in this chapter, especially because B has to kind of come to grips with the guilt that she has in regards to Gandalf. And she doesn't I don't think that she necessarily wants to feel guilty. I think she wants to feel guilty in the sense that she knows what she did was wrong. But no one aspires to feel guilt over something because it's just a really tough thing to deal with, excuse me. And I also think that it's a very tough thing to almost process. So admitting one's guilt and then also coming to grips with it, I think, is a really big point. And I think that it was definitely one thing that I felt like was a really big moment in this chapter, and probably the most defining point of this entire story. Because I think that even their relationship was very up and down, and it wasn't very linear. It wasn't like from one point to another, and there was no real change. It was very fluid. There were things that happened that pushed them apart and then pulled them together. And I think that that created this really um, grandeur sense of there's something bigger here going on than just this mission. Like our relationships matter more so than whatever else might be going on. And I really appreciated that. I think, especially when you consider that this is a fan fiction, and I think that I was really able to connect with B in a way that I didn't really think that I would be able to at the beginning of this chapter. As I talked about last chapter, I felt like B was started off as this kind of um, almost naive, kind of innocent, very timid, very shy person. And I think she grew into maybe not a warrior, but definitely grew into a stronger individual through all the experiences that she had living on her own, being away from family, friends, and having to deal with this new society that she's found herself, placed in the middle of. And so I think that for me, it was really touching, I think, and again, another character moment to see B come to grips with her guilt and also her relationship with Gandalf, because she obviously believed that he was gone and that there was nothing that she could have done for him, and she had all these worries about how she wished that things went differently and that she did more. And I think that that is also something that anyone can find themselves in terms of that position of feeling like, well, I could have done more to kind of affect the situation, or I could have done more to really um, benefit things, or really kind of change the course of how this has gone. And so I think it's a really important speaking point, a very important topic that I think that this fan fiction needed to address.
Hi,
But
I'm
aside from
back.
that,
Oh, sorry.
oh, you are no
No, no,
problem.
no, no. No, keep going, keep going. I want you to finish your
Yeah.
thoughts.
But aside from that, I think that this chapter was good. I don't really think that there was a lot else from my end that I was able to really take away. I think that the guilt that B expressed was such a beautiful human moment, and I really liked that because it showed. I think it also shows that hopefully to people like Aaron who kind of prejudge a lot of fan fiction that these stories can have
Okay,
emotional
Brandon.
depth. These stories can have emotional depth, and they can be more than just
I'll
random romantic pairing. So that's
I'll
growing.
address that real quick. I'm gonna say this story completely changed my like attitude toward fan fiction.
Mhm.
Um, because I know I would never be able to write at this level at the age that the author is probably at. Um, so props to her and for basically single-handedly removing my most of my negative, uh, inhibitions about
Mhm.
fan fiction. So yeah, I guess. Oh, also, I want to apologize for always like leaving Brandon on the
No
spot.
problem. It's
Uh,
it's really no
I
problem.
should probably explain myself. I don't know if people want to hear about this in a fanfic podcast, but like I have so I have this dinner that I have to bring some food, like a dinner party at night that I have to bring
Okay.
some food, and then I have to cook ribs, and it's at 6, so I have to start like right now.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I understand.
Sorry, I just wanted to
No problem.
explain. Uh,
Sure.
but I mean, I guess I should start with my thoughts. I don't really. I was gonna say something else, but I don't. Oh, right. I was gonna say that these last chapters are pretty great, honestly.
Yeah, they
They're
are. I
getting
was going
good
to say.
because freaking Beatrice actually does stuff now, um, and I'm really excited about this violin. I really
Hmm.
hope. Again, I know I clowned on it earlier, but I really really hope that something happens to this violin. Like this is the reason she can get back or something. Um,
Hmm.
like she maybe there's some sort of power in the violin
She
where
did
like
say it was magic. I think
yeah, I
Galadriel.
know, which makes
Yeah.
me hopeful. I really hope. Again, we're never gonna come back to this story probably, but I really hope that the author takes this opportunity, notices how good that violin is as a plot
Right.
device, and uses it. Um, yeah, again, I heard you talking about how it's beautiful how she does her guilt
Hmm.
and stuff. I think again that it's really I like. Are you you're talking? I'm assuming you're talking about. Are you talking about Boromir, where she's talking to Boromir and guilt and that kind of, or is she talking about Gandalf? Um,
Gandalf.
Gandalf, right? Yeah. Again, we don't care about Boromir. So yeah, again, Gandalf reappearing a little bit sudden for my taste. I would have kind of liked a little bit more fanfare, but I also
Hmm.
appreciate the fact that to her it would probably not come with such fanfare. He probably would have just shown up and been like, "Hey,
Right.
I'm back," you know. In the I don't know if you know this, but in the movie, he like barges in and there's like this big scene where he like makes the entire hall go dark and he like overpowers Wormtongue with his super magic. And there's like a big moment. But I appreciate that in this story, in this plot line, from this point of view, she realizes that there's no fanfare. It's just, yep, I'm here now. There's this big
Hmm.
situation, but it's done now. So in a
Right.
way, the way that Wormtongue is dealt with is very fitting, and very very well done. Um, Again, I think maybe we've stopped commenting on the dialogue, but I also, since we're nearing the end, want to go back to how good the dialogue has been throughout this entire
Okay.
story. Um, it's a little bit cheesy sometimes when B expresses her feelings or expresses her surprise.
No, it
She's like,
definitely
"What do
is
you mean
cheesy.
that this happened?" Or like, "What?" It's like literally Oblivion dialogue.
Right.
But like other than that, like the tones, like the intonations of all these different characters are done expertly. Um,
Yeah.
I really enjoy her use of dialogue. Um, I also want to say that this setting, even though it's the same idea as Lothlorien, is a lot better, and we like these chapters because it has that same magic that Amarian brought to Rivendell, where it was like, yeah, there's actual things happening to be here, and there's like she's making relationships and she's fixing them and stuff, and it's not just a pit stop for the sake
Yeah.
of a pit stop. You know, that's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts. I
All
really
right.
like the direction the story is going. I'm really helpful, and I can really see the author growing. Like, I can see like I can, because this story is so old. The first chapter came out in 2016. You can see the progression. Like
The growth
you can
of
see
the.
the actual growth of the author, and it's pretty
Hmm.
exciting.
I
I'll do
agree.
26.
Okay.
So this is the last chapter, everyone, that is currently out. She'll probably finish this in like 2152 or some year like that, some far off age. But I don't know. Do you think maybe at the end of a few like 100 episodes we could come back and see if anything's happened? I think that'd
Yeah,
be
I
pretty
wouldn't mind
fun
that actually.
if we
I
ever
wouldn't mind
reach
that.
100 episodes. Which at this rate we're on episode like 8 already, right? So we're getting
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
We're almost 1/10 of the way to our 100th episode. But yeah, anyway, getting back on track. Chapter 26 is the boys are back in town, and it freaking chapter title. But
Boys are up and down.
I also kind of. Yeah, I kind of like this. I like how Boromir, like as much crap as I give Boromir, he is like, again, I do like their relationship. If I didn't know that they were going to be romantically involved, because I don't know if you saw this, Brandon, but the way she
Mhm.
reacts to Boromir, like the way Boromir reacts, means that he wanted to have died because the fact that it would have been his redemption arc, and in the movie, that is his redemption arc, is him
Okay.
dying for, for Merry and Pippin and Frodo for their safety. He dies trying to save them, and that makes him a good guy
Got
at
it.
the end of it all. And so here he's remained the bad guy, which is why he's so mad, as to why he didn't die, as to why Beatrice saved him. It's because he's robbed of his redemption arc. So now he's the bad guy. He remains the bad guy,
Got it.
which is really intelligent of the writer to pick up on, the
Hmm.
author. Which I really like that, actually. I think that says something, about the whole Lord of the Rings like series. It provides
Yeah.
something new. I've been waiting 20 something chapters for them to provide something new
For
to the whole
something new to
meaning of
happen.
Lord of the Rings. And when Boromir is saved, it changes the meaning, right? Because
Hmm.
in the original Lord of the Rings, everything is justified. Boromir has his redemption arc. Everything has a redemption arc, happy ending, right? Here,
Yeah.
she's leaving it off on you don't know because now Beatrice is throwing wrenches in the original plan, and some things might just be unrequited, right? And
Hmm.
it throws a bit of real life into the fantasy. And I think that's what she was intending to do from the very minute she had some Texas girl wander into Middle Earth, was introduce that real life into the perfect endings and the perfect beginnings of Lord of the Rings. I don't know if you really understood what I just said, or I don't.
A little
I
bit. A
personally don't
little bit.
understand what I just said. But it's kind of like she spent so long trying to invoke the sense of reality in fantasy, and this is the
Hmm.
moment where she truly does it, where she truly gets
Yeah.
that first foothold into that whole like idea, where she has Boromir robbed of his redemption arc. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that's really cool. I just think that this chapter, like these past 3 chapters, are really cool. I really disliked Lothlorien because it just felt pointless and it felt like
Very
nothing happened.
slow. Very
Yeah,
slow.
super slow.
Yeah.
But I like these because it actually introduces like what she wants to introduce into the world.
Hmm.
So yeah,
No, I agree with that.
the author herself. Again, I don't know if I'm misgendering her. The author themselves has grown 5 years.
I agree.
So she could have been 13 when she started, and now she's 18. Like it's
18.
it's crazy to think about, and
Yeah.
it's really great to see her grow through all of this. I really as as much as some people might take me for very like, um, I don't know how to say it, like a very mean author where I like don't have that much achievement, but I really love judging people. And to a point, that is my flaw. But I also really like seeing people grow. I think it's really brilliant to watch a young writer, which you could obviously tell she was in like a middle school or early high school, turn
They're
into
really good.
someone that like actually understands plot and understands value and meaning, and she might actually
Hmm.
write literature someday, because I can't even
Yeah,
write as like this last chapter. If I were to write it, it wouldn't be any better.
got it.
So coming from me, that's high praise, uh, because I've always considered myself a really like decent writer. So the fact
Hmm.
that I recognize that this is above my level is, you know, pretty big for Scylla's Revenge.
Yeah.
Whoever you are, if you're a girl, if you're a guy, props to you. You're a better writer than I am now. Probably because you've been sticking to the same story for 5 years. Um,
So you have no choice but to get better.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I really like this is my ending notes, right? Because I've already kind of said what I thought about the chapter. It's just nothing's really wrong with it. Maybe
Hmm.
there's a little bit of like describing Boromir. Again, it's pretty creepy how it's like a love thing. Um,
Hmm.
but I've already my ending thoughts aren't here because the chapter itself is pretty brilliant. Um,
Yeah, I don't really have a lot of differing thoughts. A lot of the thoughts that I have are pretty much the same as yours. I think that this chapter does a really good job of not really wrapping things up, but kind of leaving us wanting more. And I think
yeah,
that's really important.
it's really important. You're right to make someone
Because,
want more
like,
of your story. Yeah,
right, because if we didn't really care, then we'd just be like, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, but
I'm
I think
invested.
that,
That's
yeah,
yeah. Sorry, I keep
yeah, that's
interrupting you
one
because
hundred
I'm so
percent.
excited for this
No
writer and
problem.
for the future of this story.
No, I am too. I definitely want to follow it more. Once it's all said and done. And once we kind of get through a little bit more, I hope that the story does kind of wrap up eventually.
Oh
I
my
hate
goodness,
for
yeah.
it to know to like in two
No,
years
it's
it's
about
still
to wrap up.
going
The thing
on.
is, if you know like Lord of the Rings, it's about to
Hmm.
reach its middle point.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this story was last updated July 3rd, and it's
Yeah,
currently
yeah,
July
which is
31st.
incredible. She's still
Yeah.
at it. The mad woman is still at this
Hmm.
story, right?
Hmm.
I remember the first time that when we started, the word count was at 115,000. I remember
Yeah.
that because I was looking at it, I was like, wow, we're gonna have to read a lot. And then it's at 122,000 now, which means she's
Yeah.
actually still working on it. So
Yeah.
I actually I hope Skiller's Revenge watches this. Again, she's probably not going to because there's like a 1 in a trillion chance she is. But like just to know that I at the end of this all is I am so impressed. Like
Yeah.
I am actually in awe. This author has been going at like I tried to write a novel. I'm
Mm.
sure I've tried to write a novel.
Yeah.
I've gotten 200 something pages into it and I stopped because I just
Yeah. It's
couldn't go
it's really
forward.
tough.
But I
Yeah.
commend her. She's been working on this for 5 years nonstop.
Hmm.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
really wish the best for Skiller's Revenge. I hope she like makes it big, and I hope you know, I go to her book signing when she writes this really cool literature work, and I'm like, wow, this is really great.
Yeah.
My favorite author used to be Margaret Atwood, but now it's you. So how about you sign this book?
Kill his
And then she's
revenge.
like, hey, I wrote this fan fiction this Lord of the Rings fan fiction, and I'd be like, really? And then we can have that whole like anime arc.
Mm.
I really hope that for her. I really have high hopes for her. This is a really
Yeah.
good she's a really good author. I hope like she doesn't take any of our criticism to be destructive criticism and like
No.
she's a bad writer because
It's a lot of things that you can fix, I think.
yeah, it's just like every author. I've been saying all my critiques this entire time and being like, yeah, I'm
Mhm.
guilty of all of this. Like I've done so much of this, and actually reading this short story, reading this novella, this fanfic, I went back to my own writing because I was like
Mhm.
looking at it in the beginning. I was like, yeah, I bet I could have done better, and then I looked back at my own writing. I was like, no, I couldn't have. Like I was reading this, I
No.
was like, man, this is like actually about the same level. Um, so yeah, I that was a lot of ending praise. But I'm really glad that you presented this story, Skill is Revenge. If you're out there listening to this,
Hmm.
I really encourage you to finish this because I'm very invested. It's a totally. It started out as kind of like a run of the mill fanfic, um, you know, kind
Not
of.
super impressive.
So,
Yeah.
but you've actually created a parallel storyline here,
Yep.
which is extremely difficult because most fan fiction is not parallel storyline. It's perpendicular, or it's kind of just
Hmm.
like stealing it, or you know what I'm talking about, right? Parallel are
Yeah.
like running at the same time, and then there's most fan fiction is after the events or before the events because it's easy to do, right? But
Right.
but pacing yourself at the same exact pace as the original story is impressive.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah, I don't know. I'll leave you to your ending thoughts for this story.
Yeah, I know. I think again, I have a lot of the same thoughts as you, so I don't want to like just reiterate what you've already said. But I think that there's a lot of good things to come from this story, and I think that it's really great that that she was able to grow her writing over time. And again, you highlighted the appearance of such and also the change. It's definitely become a little bit more engaging. Even though we joke and we're like, there isn't really a whole lot that has happened, I still feel like in the grand scheme of things, there is a story there. It's not like every plot or every chapter has no plot and everything's just filler. Um, it's definitely there. I think it could be a little bit more streamlined, yes, but it's definitely not a terrible story. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it kind of goes from here. I will probably be following it on my own to see if
Yes,
the
yes, me
author
too.
ever
Me too.
updates.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad that you chose this story for us to read because it's definitely been a how you
A
say
wild
a
ride.
palate. Yeah, it's been a wild ride, but also a palate cleanser from My
Oh
Immortal.
my
So
goodness, yes. I was about to say it is so refreshing having read My Immortal and being like,
yeah,
yeah, I'm going to try and literary dissect this, but there's literally nothing
hmm
there to
no,
dissect because you don't know what the
yep,
plot is, you don't know what's happening. But like you can actually follow this and like
right,
it's so cool to see.
yeah, I
Um
agree.
yeah.
Well,
I guess
yeah,
is that the end then of
that's
Burn Like
it.
Cold Iron? Wow.
Yeah.
We might be back in like 20, 30 years to check this out if she ever finishes it. So if you guys want more of this, just wait 20 years. Otherwise, I mean, I guess I wanted to do something cool. Since I know this
Okay.
is a 5-year-old story and it's been updated constantly, I want you to read. I want us to read our favorite sentence from the prologue or chapter 2, and then read our favorite sentence from chapter 26.
Okay.
I just want to see how she's like. I want to visualize for the last time how she's changed. So if you want to choose like if you want to go back, I don't know if you have it pulled up or if you have your notes pulled up.
Yeah, I do have the chapter pulled up. I'm just
Yeah.
looking
So
through it
if you
right
want to
now.
go for one of the earlier sentences and then read it to us, and then we'll read the last one, and then we'll just say goodbye.
All right. Um, let's see. You want me to find a really bad one?
No, no, no. Find your favorite one. Find the
Okay.
one that actually like felt good.
Okay. Well, this one is just funny. It's just the first one I saw. Hey, look, who knew chipmunks like Doritos, huh?
Okay, I like that sentence. I guess I'll go with mine. I'll probably go from I don't think Advil would have helped. Let's see here. I remember the conversation with them and Caroline and Nathan in them being really like not great. I
No,
said it was good,
it
but I was saying it compared to like the dialogue in My Immortal.
wasn't.
The whole part. What would you name your base again? I turned to him. Nathan turned slightly pink. Glorfindel, and then it was like something about Nathan saying he's not a disease, and
Yeah.
then John going nerds from the living room. That was hilarious to me. Hilariously like fanfic.
Yeah.
I don't. That wasn't really a sentence, but I don't know if that counts. Okay,
I
your
got what you
favorite
mean.
sentence from 26.
All right. Let me find one from 26. Give me a second. Ooh, okay. Um, shoot, I just had it. Excuse me. Okay. This is not like my favorite sentence, but I think it just shows the growth of the writing. Um, the halls were crowded with men and women talking in thick accents, children tugging on their parents' ragged clothes, elderly people gathering to rest in the dining halls and leaning their bent backs against the wall wherever there was free space.
Yeah, yeah, that one does show it. You're right. I
Yeah.
actually have a sentence that I was gonna say showed it. So I guess we had the same thought.
Hmm.
I guess mine is technically two sentences. The
Okay.
elven violin outdid itself. Each note echoed with a piercing brilliance into the cold spring air and eerie defiance of the billowing wind. That is a good.
Nice.
That's actually a good sentence. Like that,
Yeah.
I wouldn't. It would not be amiss in like an actual like a book that's being
No.
sold, like a
There was something that she had
New York
described.
bestseller. You know.
Yeah, there was something that she had described about something washing over her, like clear water, which I thought was really smart. Um, yeah, I think that the author definitely does.
She's
Uh,
probably our age now. To come to
mhm.
think of it, we're probably the same age as the author.
Yeah, pretty much. So honestly, I think that this writing is just very, very good.
Yeah, I guess we
Yeah,
should say goodbye to this story then. Um,
yeah.
I would play something, but I can't. Like I can't play an instrument. So like, thank you, Scylla's Revenge. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know if I can just nickname you by saying Scylla, uh, but thank you for your story. And
Hmm.
we will be back with a new fan fiction next week. And
Yes,
I
we
think Brandon will
will.
be the one choosing that one, since we all
Yes,
know
I
how we're gonna
will.
choose fan fiction from now on.
Yes, we will. All
So
right.
yeah, that was this episode, guys. Have fun. I
Thanks
guess
for
Brandon, do
listening.
you want to do the outro?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Pen is Mightier. We will catch you next time.
Yeah. Goodbye,
See
everyone.
y'all.
Bye.